Hi, this is Deborah Clutter. I have a new block for you today. This is a very big block. This one is 24 inches and it is just simple piecing, half square triangles, some flying geese, and squares and rectangles. Pretty simple to put together. Now, I saw this block in an old magazine that I have that I got from the thrift store, and I think it's 20 years old, and it had this block in an advertisement. They were advertising fabric, and they had made a block similar to this in the fabric. And I thought, oh, that's a pretty block. And of course, there's no pattern to it or anything. So I just determined what size I wanted my block, what size I wanted each unit. And then I drafted the block this morning, and I made the pattern this morning, and then I sewed it up today. So that's kind of how it went. And I did write the cutting instructions if you want to make a smaller one, a 16 inch, which makes the half square triangles 2 inches. These are 3-inch half square triangles, 3-inch finished, and the flying geese are 3 by 6. So this is a nice size to work with. The half square triangles aren't too finicky. So this block, I hope you can see it, at least a little bit better. Let me see if I can get all of it in there. Anyway, yeah, it is really big. And I think it turned out super beautiful. And I did it in Christmas fabric that I had stashed away forever. And it's kind of shiny. You can't really see it in the video. So you're going to need a couple of specialty rulers for this project. And that is only if you want to make the half square triangles like I did and how I wrote the pattern. So I'm making the half square triangles in the pattern with the strip tube ruler by Cozy Quilt Designs. And this is a super handy ruler to have. You can make all kinds of fun stuff with it. I'll have to have another video on it. But this thing is awesome for trimming up half square triangles. You can trim up any size with one ruler. You don't need all those multiple rulers to trim up your half square triangles. This one is super easy. And you can make half square triangles with it, which is really nice because you need 12 of the gray ones and 8 of the red ones. So this is a fast way to make them. The other ruler I used was Deb Tucker's wing clipper. I have to put it on something white so you can actually see it. And this is for trimming the flying geese. So we're going to be making the flying geese 4 at a time. And if you've never tried making a flying geese this way, you need to try this. I always thought it was kind of crazy and looked kind of weird, and I didn't really want to do it. So I kind of avoided it for a long time. And then one day I just like, oh, I'm going to give it a try. What's that going to hurt, right? I love it. It works so good. It's so fast. You can make all your flying geese at the same time. And you don't have to keep fussing with all those little triangles. And this is to trim it up after you're done, because we're going to make it a little bit oversized. That is the only way to get it perfectly the way you want it, at least for me. So I love this ruler, and I have lots of Deb Tucker's ruler. I kind of went on a little Deb Tucker video, a splurge, I guess you could say. Anyway, if you want to make the flying geese a different way, or the half square triangles like 2 at a time or whatever, you're just going to have to modify the cutting instructions so you can make them that way if you want to do that, if you're going to make this block. So here's the pattern. This is what it looks like. Whoops. Here's the front page. And like I said, it has the cutting instructions for the 16-inch block and the 24-inch block. And then it also shows how to make the 4 at a time flying geese and cutting the half square triangles with the strip tube ruler. Now, if you want to make a quilt, which I probably will because I don't want another block hanging around that I have no use for. So in my little diagram, I have it 3 by 4, which is a really big quilt, especially after you add the sashing. But you could make a 2 by 3, you know, two blocks across and 3 down, and it'll be somewhere 50 by 70 or 80, depending on your sashing or your borders or whatever you want to put on it. But nice size twin quilt or throw if you want to do that, and you only have to make 6 blocks, and these blocks are super easy. Did I say that? Super easy. So I hope you try this out. It's a lot of fun. I think it's going to make a beautiful Christmas quilt, and thanks for watching. So here's the pattern for the Stockyard star, and I'm going to be making the 24-inch star. I found this block in a very old book, so I thought it would be interesting if I made it into a really big block. So the pattern has the 16-inch and a 24-inch. Really can't make it any smaller than that unless you're going to use like 1-inch half square triangles, and I don't think anybody wants to do that. So we're going to be using some really pretty sparkly Christmas fabric for this project. So the center block will be this color, this gray, and I just put my little pins on here. I just wrote letters on the pins, and this will be for some of the half square triangles. And here's the background for the half square triangles. This is background squares for this unit down here. These are the corner squares. And this is going to be used for the flying geese. So the flying geese it's a background color in the middle, and then it has the green on the edges. And these will be for the green. And the red, here's for the half square triangles, and these are the rectangles that go around the middle square. So the first thing we're going to start with, I mean, this is a pretty simple project, and we're going to be making the half square triangles with a strip tube ruler, and this is what the ruler looks like. I know it's a little difficult to see. Hang on a second. So this is what the ruler looks like. They're about, I don't know, $10 at the quilt store, $10, $15. I'm not really sure, but I know my local quilt store had them, and you can do all kinds of stuff with these. But these are the easiest to make half square triangles with, and they're also very handy for squaring up half square triangles that you've made with some other kind of method. But we're going to be making our half square triangles with this. If you don't have one of these, you can always make your half square triangles any way you want. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my half square triangles. So I need to take my strips, and these are cut with the fabric, and I'm just going to sew one of the gray with one of the white, right sides together, and the red with one of the whites, right sides together, and I'm going to sew on both edges. So I'm making a tube. So you're going to sew on both edges. And I'll bring those back as soon as I'm done. My tubes are done. So you can see I sewed on each side of the 3-inch strip, and then I pressed it. And so now we're going to use the strip ruler to cut these. And it's pretty simple. I mean, just pick a side. You're going to line up the 3.5-inch line on your stitching line, just like that, and then just going to cut. And there is your half square triangle. And what I like about this method is I don't have to trim the triangles, and they're exactly the right size. Just beautiful. So then you can just turn your strip this way and line up on the 3.5 inch mark again, and you can lay the ruler along the cut edge you just did. And there's another half square triangle. Voila. And so I need, I believe, let's see, how many do I need of these? So I need 8 of these. So I'm going to go ahead and finish cutting all of this red strip until I have 8 half square triangles. Here's our stack of 8 half square triangles in the red, and they are so pretty. Look at that fabric. I've had this fabric for a long time, and I think this is going to be beautiful. So I went ahead and pressed them open, and we're going to cut the gray strip now, the same way we did the red strip. And by the way, I have leftovers of the red, and I could just cut these, finish cutting these up, and use it in some other project. So I'm going to line up the 3.5 inch mark again and start cutting my half square triangles. And something I forgot to show you is, after I cut this, I'll show you. When you go to line up the third cut, it's always a little awkward because you can't really go to the edge because of this little cutoff right here. So you just come in a little bit, and then you'll have to recut that side. No big deal. Just like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut 12 of those, and I'll be right back. I have the gray half square triangles done, and these really are super fast to make. It only took me a few minutes to make all these half square triangles with that strip tube ruler. It's one of the faster methods. You can do half square triangles with the magic 8 half square triangles, and that's pretty fast also, but I needed more than 8 on one of them, so I did it this way. And this is all I have left of the gray one. So I'll cut the rest. I might get about, I don't know, 4 or 5 of them out of there. So next we're going to make the flying geese. So we need the big square, and we need the green. There we go. And we're going to place the green squares in the corner, right sides together, just like that. And you can fudge them up a little bit. It'll give you a little bit more room to trim at the bottom. And then I just want to draw a line from corner to corner. And I'm just using a regular pen because that's what I have handy. So, all right. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch on each side of this line. I finished sewing on each side of the line I drew, and that's kind of what it looks like on the back. And I know it looks really weird, but these are really the easiest way to make flying geese. And you can make 4 at a time doing this, and just get all 4 done. I used to think it was kind of weird. So I'm just going to line up my ruler on that center line and cut it in half. Yeah, so I used to think it was really weird, and why would anybody want to do that until I tried it. So now you have these two pieces that look like hearts. And then you're going to take your remaining half square triangles, or I mean your remaining squares. I'm always getting my words mixed up. And put them right sides together. And then we just want to do the same thing. We're going to draw a line down the middle. And then we're going to take it and sew on each side of that line 1/4 of an inch. So these are made a little bit big, so we can trim them down in the end. So I'm going to go ahead and take these to the sewing machine, and I'll be right back. So I finished sewing on each side of the line I drew, and I'm going to take a ruler and just cut them in half. And there we go. We have a beautiful flying geese. Like magic. I don't know how or who came up with this method, but I think it's pretty genius of them. So I'm going to go ahead and iron these real quick, and then we're going to trim them down. I'm going to be using a Deb Tucker Studio 180 ruler to trim my flying geese. You could also use just a regular ruler and trim these down. They need to be 3.5 by 6.5. And I don't know what they measure right now. Yeah, they're about 1/2 inch bigger than they're supposed to be. So I'm going to use this because that's what I bought it for. But you can use whatever you want, or you can also take the measurements on the pattern and make them smaller so that you get the size flying geese you want. So on this ruler, here's my 6.5. It has a V to lay or to match up with the V of your fabric. Then I'm just going to trim these sides. And I can turn it over. And then the little X will go right at the very bottom. It's just super easy to use. And then there we go, our perfect flying geese. I'm going to go ahead and trim the rest of them, and I'll be back. I'm going to start putting my units together. So I need one of these units, and here's my 6.5 inch square, and I need one of the gray half square triangles, the red one, the gray one, the gray one, and the red one. And it should look just like that. So just pile them all on each other, and then you can sew each block together. Now, I filmed this, I thought I filmed this yesterday, and I didn't. For some reason, I must have not turned the camera on. So I only have this one block, and I had to make this out of my extra. So I don't have all four to I'll show you how I piled them up together, but I thought it was important to show how this block goes together. So we're going to sew this row together, sew all these together, sew these two together, then sew this to this, and then press everything, and then sew these together. So get all your units, this one and the next one I'm going to show you together, and get them ready to sew. Okay, so I'm going to set up the next unit that I need to sew together. And we're going to need 4 of these. And then all 4 of the flying geese. And then 4 of the background. And just sew this to this to this. And that's all you need to do. So I'm going to take all my units to the sewing machine, and I'll be back when I finish putting them together. I have my units all done, and I just want to talk a little bit about how I put them together. I didn't film sewing them because I don't particularly like watching other people sew, so I don't know if anybody feels the same way. If you do want me to watch me sew, you'll have to let me know. So I sewed this top row together, and I didn't press it. And then I sewed these 2 together. And then I finger pressed these and sewed it to this one. Then I took it to the ironing board and I pressed this row all in one direction. And that's the way it looks like on the back. That's how it's pressed. Now I didn't press these until I had all this pressed, because I want to make sure that it's all going to nest together. So I wanted to make sure I pressed all these seams in the opposite direction. And that's what I have done. So we're going to go ahead and lay out this block, and I really don't think I'm going to be able to get the whole thing in the camera, but we will try. So it's pretty simple. All of these go in the corner like this. And this is really going to be pretty. This was really simple to make so far. Wow, that looks beautiful. I wish you guys could see the whole thing a little bit. All right, that's what it looks like. So I'm going to start with the top row, and I'm going to sew all these together. And then I'm going to do the middle row, and then I'll do the bottom row. And then I'll press the seams opposite each other on each row so that they'll nest together, and then I'll start sewing the rows together. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the rows, and then I'll be back. All right, I have my rows sewn together, and I think this block is really beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead, and I pressed all the seams opposite of each other, and I'm going to go ahead and sew the rest of the block together. Here is the finished block, and I think this is really beautiful, and I hope you like this pattern. You can download the pattern in the description, and let me know if I need to correct something in the pattern. Just send me an email or comment. Sometimes I miss stuff, so I hope you enjoy. Thanks.